Hi folks, Happy New Year to you all. So if you think about Argentina, you probably think great football team, great steaks, great red wine, beautiful women. You might not think great analog synths. But check this out. GS Music E7 7-note polyphonic synthesizer. I've got to admit, I'd never heard of it and I'd never heard of the company before they approached me to check this out. But I've got to say, it might be a bit of a boring name, the E7, but this thing has just bags of charisma. It really is a very, very characterful, bold sounding synth. Very raw in some ways. It's just got, I think it's got that vintage kind of character like some of the 70s synths for me. More than a lot of other modern poly synths, even analog ones. It's got 2 oscillators, 3 LFOs, and 2 sub oscillators as well. And as I said, it sounds fat. So let's check it out. Okay, so you've got 2 oscillators and each one has a sub oscillator. The oscillators are both identical and they've got a sawtooth, triangle, and try and saw together. In addition to that, you've got a pulse wave, which you can have on at the same time. Let's just hear it on its own for a sec. And the width of that pulse can be modulated either by LFO 1 or envelope 1. So if you combine that with one of the waveforms, straight away you've got a good raw strong sound like the Juno series. It's also like the Oberheims that you can blend the waveform with a pulse. Let's hear the sub. The sub is a square, so that gives you another waveform option. So that's just one oscillator and a sub. Bring in the other one, detune it a bit, and straight away you've got a pretty fat sound. You've also got a stereo width control here, so you can spread the voices out. So it's pretty impressive stuff. You know, it sounds really fat and warm, buzzy. It's got a lot of character. I love the fact that the triangle, for instance, is just so dirty sounding. You know, it's quite a dirty sound. You could hear a little bit of click there. The envelopes are a little bit clicky. You've just got to be careful with the nose of the sound. It's okay, but you just have to be careful with it. So you can dial it out. Let's move over to the LFO section. You've got 3 LFOs, which is very generous. And 1 and 2 or 3 can be used to modulate the oscillators, both independently and the filter. And the amplitude actually as well, which is pretty cool. LFO 3 is dedicated to being on the mod wheel or aftertouch. So it's pretty flexible, you know, in terms of LFOs, it's very generous. And also the LFO has quite a few different shapes. So you've got triangle, ramp up, which is quite cool, and ramp down, which is even more cool. Square, and a sample and hold. Not only that, but the LFOs have a few different modes: monophonic, which is what you've been hearing, polyphonic, and keyboard tracking. So the LFO speeds up as you go up the keyboard. By the way, it has a digital chorus and delay built in. They're nothing to write home to mum about, do you know what I mean? But they're usable. The chorus, I'd say it's same quality as maybe a Prophet 6 chorus. You know, it's pretty average, but usable. I have been using it in the patches. And the delay the same. It's perfectly usable. It's not particularly characterful, but it's got a ping pong delay. You can sync it to the clock. There's no actual clock in this machine, by the way, but it just automatically finds the clock from whatever you're driving it from. So that's really good, actually. It's really easy. You don't have to press any buttons. It just finds the tempo from the clock of whatever you're feeding into it. And the delay and the LFOs can be synced to the clock as well. Chorus sounds like this. Back to the LFOs, sorry, I diverted myself there. So we got up to polyphonic keyboard tracking, keyboard sync, clock sync, very handy always, keyboard and clock sync. And also LFO2 has an extra trick up its sleeve. When you're in polyphonic mode or keyboard tracking mode, you can also use envelope generator 1 to dictate how fast the LFO goes, so it can move tempo as you go. Let's move on to the filter. It's a Moog style ladder filter. One thing you will notice is when you crank up the resonance, you lose a lot of low end. So I probably wouldn't use this synth particularly for like a resonant bass, funk bass type sound. It's just not its forte. It sort of threw me off a bit at first, but actually I really like the fact that it does that, because when you really open up the filter, you can use the resonance as a tone control. And it's really easy to create good string sounds that way. I'll try to show you. See how easy that is to make a nice string sound. And if you've got it right open, you can crank up the resonance. You'll lose volume, but you'll also lose the low end. You get this really lovely, airy kind of sound. When you've got it closed, it sounds like this. There you go. Onto the envelope generators. There's a couple of cool things about those that are quite unusual, that you can affect how fast the attack and release come in, depending on the velocity of how you hit the keyboard. I don't find it that useful on the release, but I do love it on the attack sometimes. So let's try to show you that. The other thing you can do is put keyboard tracking on the envelope so that it will open up at different speeds depending on where you are on the keyboard. So if you can hear that. So there you go, loads of personality. By the way, I think I'm going to be giving 64 patches to GS Music, which you'll be able to download at some point for free, I guess. Let's have a listen to a few sounds.